Today we are going to make this render using Unreal Engine and Blender. We're going to build the scene and render it in Unreal Engine, and we are going to build some extra building models using Blender. Let's go. Let's start off by making a new project. I chose the blank film preset and turned on ray tracing. You can turn on starter content if you want. You can delete it afterwards once you feel like it. Okay, first things first. If you haven't yet added the Place Actors panel to your layout, you can do that now. Once done, let's search for and add a camera to our scene. I always want to make the scene as cinematic as possible from the get-go. So let's give our camera the cinematic aspect ratio of 2.39 to 1. To get this aspect ratio, I changed the sensor of the camera to 239 by 100. Most movies are shot using this aspect ratio, and I feel like it gives your scene a more professional feel to it. Once done, let's increase our focal length so that our scene is still in frame. Let's also change our exposure mode to manual so that the camera doesn't change its exposure by itself. Let's go into our sky sphere and change the clouds opacity to make them more visible in our scene. It is possible that you can't change this setting. If that's the case, you will need to add a directional light to your scene. I will also add a post-processing volume to the scene and turn on its infinite extent. In the post-processing volume, I like to set the exposure mode to manual. This will make sure that our viewport doesn't change its exposure based on the light in the scene. I do this, but it's my personal preference and you don't have to do it also. Let's first quickly map out a first visualization of our scene so that we can open Quixel Bridge and begin adding Megascan assets to our scene. If you didn't know, Megascans is completely free if you are an Unreal Engine user. So now, let's build out our scene. I always want to make something myself in a scene, and this time I want to create a simple church in Blender and also make another simple building to fill this gap here. So let's open up Blender. I searched for and downloaded a wooden barn image texture from textures.com. I imported this image into Blender using the Import Images as Planes add-on. Once I had the image in Blender, I went into edit mode and cut the barn out of the image using the knife tool. Once I had done that, I deleted all the other faces, selected the entire mesh and extruded it by pressing E. Now you can see that we already have a pretty nice barn mesh. However, you can also see that it's for some reason transparent. So open up the material properties and change the blend mode from alpha blend to alpha hashed. Now we can see that our mesh is not transparent anymore. However, you can see that the sides do not look realistic. This is because the image which we projected on the front of the mesh is getting stretched on the sides. To fix this, I add a UV editor panel to my workplace. Once done, I go into edit mode and select all the faces which have a stretched texture. I go into the side view and press U, project from view. Because of this, the faces that we just selected will show up in the UV editor. Now you can scale and stretch the faces until the texture looks realistic. I don't worry too much about the sides looking realistic because I've already plans of hiding them behind trees. For a little bit of extra realism, I make sure to cut out and extrude the wooden planks on the front. Now we are done with our wooden barn, so let's export it as an FBX file and you can just open it up or import it in Unreal Engine. I'm also going to show you how I made this simple church. I started out with a simple cube and scaled it and added it in edit mode until it had the general shape of a church building. In the future, I think I want to spend more time doing this because I did this pretty quickly. Once I had the general shape done, I added textures from ambientcg.com. Next, I made pillars for the side. I just made one pillar and multiplied it using an array modifier. In the end, I also added a few windows. These windows were just textures from textures.com. For the tower of the church, I also started off with a cube and scaled it in different directions. I also added 2 bumps to it, but I didn't do anything to the top of it because I knew I wanted to decorate the top with Megascans assets in Unreal Engine. I also made a Boolean cutout in the tower so that I could later fit a door asset in there. And in the end, our scene looks like this. I wanted to use the Megascans 3 European pack. However, at this moment it doesn't support Unreal Engine 5, so I had to find other 3 models. I went to CG Trader and searched for free 3 models. The pack that I will be using in this render will be the 3 pack made by Xfrog. I wanted to make it look like it was the autumn season, so I wanted to give the trees multiple leaf colors. To do this, I created this node system. To explain it really quick, this value determines how much of the tree is covered in yellow leaves, and this value determines how clean the transition will be from the green to yellow leaves. A higher number will result in a smoother transition. If you want to add different kind of leaves or different color of leaves, you can just search for leaf textures on textures.com. I did this for a tree in the background and I gave it a 3 different coloring system. Here you can see the entire node system and feel free to copy it. In the end, this is how our scene looks with autumn styled trees added to it. One thing that you can see by looking at our scene right now is that it's very clean and there's nothing happening. I'm going to create a little bit of chaos and story. We do this by adding some random objects to our scene so that our scene looks a lot more realistic and lively. Compared to before, we have added these objects to our scene and I think that they promote a story. For example, this bucket with stones has fallen from the wall because someone placed it there. I feel like adding these little details will make your scene stand out more. To give our scene even more life, I want to add a few characters to it. I will be adding this soldier Mixamo character, and I also like this character, but I also like this character's dress. So I'm going to combine the 2 characters, as you can see here. With the objects and the characters added, I feel like the scene has a lot more life to it now. I also want to add more nature to our scene, like grass or different flowers or plants. You can find 3D plants in Quixel Bridge under the tab 3D plants. For example, I used this grass and these sunflowers in the scene. You do this by downloading these assets, going into the foliage mode and dragging them into the foliage tab. Now, once you have selected the paintbrush, you can just paint with the models that you have selected. You can change the brush size or the paint density. And the paint density means the density of how many models will be painted. If your models are too big or too small, you can adjust the scale right here, like this. And with some foliage added, I think that we are done for now. This is our final scene. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to place them in the comments and I will try to answer every single one. Good luck with your renders. Bye.